Hello and welcome to episode 86 of the She Must Knit podcast. My name is Erin and thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. I hope you guys had a great week, and at this point, I hope you're having a great weekend too, because yes, I know, again, I am recording just a little bit later than usual. This has kind of been a busy week. I'll go into that in a minute, but this is just the first opportunity that I've had to sit down and share with you what I've been working on this week. So yeah, my week's been pretty busy. I didn't think, there was certain points of the week where I just didn't think I was going to have a lot to share with you, but looking down at my table, it is jam-packed. We have even been joined by a Mr. T, but he has situated himself on his paper bag and he seems quite content, so he shouldn't be bothering us. But yeah, it's been a busy week. Just to give you an update, so Monday, thank you everybody from the last episode for your comments on Avery and her bus adventures. Thankfully, we have got that all sorted out at this point. So Monday, I went out there because if you remember, the last time it happened, the week prior, they said they were going to try and get it fixed. So Monday, I went out seeing if they were going to drop her off at the right time, right spot in front of her house. They did not. They did the whole little loop-de-doo around the other neighborhood. And again, the bus driver said that they were going to talk to whoever manages the list for the route. Well, when Avery and I stepped in the door on Monday, I called the bus company myself. I talked to the person who does the routes. She was very apologetic. Apparently there was a little mix-up in the list, and she put Avery back where she was supposed to be, and so Tuesday she was in fact dropped off when and where she was supposed to. So she was very pleased. I am very pleased. For everybody who thought she was scared with the route, she was more frustrated. You know, she's a creature of habit, and she just knew when she was supposed to be let off the bus, and they weren't doing that. So she was more frustrated than anything, but it is all good. That is all sorted for the rest of the week. It has been fine. Tuesday, Dennis was home from work. He worked from home, and that always kind of throws me off, but I had a lot of errands to do. I'm trying to get things set up. Like, I'm trying to get some Christmas shopping and stuff like that done now. I do like to get it done towards the end of November so I don't have as much to do in December. So I was out almost all day. I don't think I actually got a lot of knitting done on Tuesday. Wednesday I was home and I got a good chunk of work done on one of my projects. Thursday, I was actually able to go out and have some tea with a friend and a little catch-up, and then I had my 18 to 20 week anatomy scan, so that was fun. I think we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then Friday, Dennis was home again all day, and I wasn't expecting him to be. He had a business trip for a couple of days in Arizona, and I thought he was going to be arriving back Friday afternoon, and so I'd have time to record in the morning. Well, we weren't even stepping out the door to catch the morning bus, and he walked in, and for the rest of the day he kind of planted himself on the couch watching his documentaries, and yeah, so recording on Friday just wasn't going to happen. So yesterday, Saturday, we went to a craft fair in the morning and then to my mom's for my brother's birthday dinner, and I had considered trying to record when we got home, but I was just so tired last night. So it is Sunday now. It's actually quite late Sunday afternoon. Dennis and Avery were home all morning. I think she was supposed to have a play date, but her friend was sick, so they were trying to figure out something else to do. He has taken her out to kind of like an arcade games type place, and that is where they are now. So I am trying to take advantage of this empty house to get this going and to show you what I've been working on, because yeah, I've actually got a fair bit of work put into a lot of these projects. So what am I going to share with you today? I have 4 works in progress that I have to share with you. 3 of them are ones that you have seen previously, and then I was very naughty this week and I cast on something new, even though I know I shouldn't. But I warned you last week that I might, and I decided I had to do it. So I have 1 new project to share with you. And then I think we're going to do some past projects. If you remember a while ago, I mentioned that I was talking about old knits that I knit for Avery before we knew, like when we were expecting Avery, there were certain knits that I made for her. And recently, I think within the last 2 weeks or so, there was one day where I was able to go through the closet in the guest room, pull out all the baby clothes that I had been putting aside. I was able to go through all of them, weed out things that I no longer want. I was able to sort the remaining things. I sorted them by season instead of by age, just because once the baby comes, if it's a girl, I'm going to have to determine what will fit her in the appropriate season anyway. So I did that. But while I was doing that, I found the giant box of knitwear that I've kind of put aside, and I was able to pull out the pieces that I knit for her while we were waiting for her. So I thought it might be fun to share those with you, just to see, because we also didn't know, we didn't find out her gender while I was pregnant either. So all the knits that I knit during that time were kind of gender neutral, and I thought it might be fun to share those with you, and then also which ones I ended up using, which ones I didn't, and maybe a little planning for this pregnancy, what I'm planning on knitting. I'm not planning on knitting very much over the next few months, but so yeah, I've got some knits to share with you, and then I think at the very end I'm going to do a bit of a baby update. So yeah, we've got a lot to talk about, so we are going to get started, and I don't have anything to drink that's pretty fancy, because while I don't feel horrible today, I don't feel the best, and I just didn't feel like anything overly flavored. So I've got my winter wiener mug from Burn, thank you Burn, and it just has some water in it. And at this point, because Mr. T was walking all over the table trying to find a comfy spot, I can see there is cat hair in my water as well, but that's fine, we'll deal with it. So I've got some water, I've got my knits, I've got my projects, everything's all ready to go. I think we are going to start with my November Desert Vista Dye Works socks. So last week when I shared them with you, I think I was on the first sock. I was working down the foot, and I was pretty confident that I was going to be able to finish that first sock this week and also start the second sock, and that's what I was able to do. So here we have the first sock all finished. I love how this colorway knits up. This is the color Brisbane. I am knitting these for Avery's teacher for her Christmas gift. So I did my vanilla sock version that I find to be more flexible in terms of fit. So I cast on 81 stitches. I actually did it, I tweaked it just a little bit for this pair. I cast on 81 stitches. I did a really long cuff of 2x1 rib, and then went right before, or right, I think I might have done 1 or 2 rows of stockinette, and then I decreased 5 stitches. So usually when I'm doing my vanilla pair, I start with 81 stitches, I work all the way down the heel, and then after the heel I go down to about 70 stitches, so approximately 11 stitches I decrease along the way. And I find with the socks that I wear, so that I knit for myself, they can be a little just a little baggy in this area, so I thought I'd try something new with this pair. So I did my 81 stitches, my 2x1 rim, I did an extra long cuff, I did 1 or 2 rows of plain stockinette, and then I decreased 5 stitches so that it came down to an even 76 stitches, so 38 stitches on each side. I continued down, and then for this pair I wanted to do the triangular shaped heel that I like to do. I find this to be a very flexible fitting heel, and since these are not for me, I wanted to go with that. I did do the heel part in the reverse stockinette, and then by the time I was done the heel, instead of having 10 stitches to kind of decrease out after doing the entire heel shaping, I only had like another 5 or so stitches to decrease. So I'm hoping that that works out better in terms of fit. We'll see. I'll have to make a pair of socks like this for myself and just see how the fit differs, but then I just do the whole foot plain and do my little Kitchener toe, and then that is done. So the first sock is done, and then for the second sock, because I had more time this month, I was able to rewind the cake. You've seen me do this lots of times before. It's just something I think is really fun. So this is the cake here. I was able to rewind it so that the stripes are going in the opposite direction for the second sock. I just think it looks really, really neat. So yeah, I got that cast on. I got my long rib cuff. I did have to take Avery to her ninjas class this week because Dennis again was on his trip. So I think I finished the cuff at Ninjas, and then I've been working on the leg. I did do the little decreases after the cuff, and then this is what I took to my mom's yesterday, so I kind of worked on this while I was there. So this is how much I've got done of the second sock. I'm pretty confident that I should be able to finish these without a problem by the end of the month. I think I have until next weekend. I think Saturday is the 30th maybe, but I should have no problem. If I just work on these a little bit every day, even if I have some left over to do by the weekend, it should not be a problem, because if you remember October, I pretty much knit like an entire pair in 3 days. So I'm pretty sure that November should be fine. So that is what I've done on that pair there. I think what I might do is share, I don't know, should I share my new project next? Because it's kind of related. I think we're going to share my new project. So I cast on another pair of socks. If you remember last week, I was saying that because these are the only pair of socks that I have on the needles right now, because I finished Dennis's last pair of Christmas socks, I was very tempted to cast on another pair of socks. And that's what I decided to do. So one of the goals on my bingo card is to use 3 sock blanks from my stash. And the first one that I used up, I did a pair of micro stripe socks where I took a sock blank and I combined it with a tonal skein of sock weight yarn. And I love those socks. They are my absolute favorite socks. They were so fun to knit, they were so fast, and I love wearing them. So I kind of knew in the back of my mind that if I was going to use another sock blank, I honestly don't think I'm going to get through 3 sock blanks by the end of the year. You never know, but right now I'm thinking that goal probably won't be completed. But if I was going to try, I knew I at least wanted to do one more pair of those micro stripe style socks. So I picked a sock blank from the few that I have in my stash that went with a solid or a semi-solid that I had in my stash, and I cast on another pair of micro stripe socks, and I am loving these. These, I'm telling you, if you have a sock blank in your stash and you don't know what to do with it and you like making socks, I encourage you to try making some micro stripe socks because they are just so much fun. So for my solid, I found this skein of Northern Bay fibers, and it was, I think, not last year, maybe the year before, maybe the year before that, I'm not sure. I did a monthly club with Northern Bay fibers, and it was like a Muskoka yarn box, and it was Canadian yarn, and they included Canadian extras, and this is one of the skeins I received. So this is it here, and you can see it's this really, really pretty teal tonal, and then there's Allurix in it to give it that sparkle. So this is my semi-solid that I chose, and then for my sock blank, I chose this skein here. It's kind of a skein, it's kind of a sock blank, but anyway, you unravel it, so that's the point. And this is one that I picked up on one of the yarn crawls that I did maybe last year. I don't know, I lose track, but within the last 2 years I did the Lakeside yarn crawl, and I picked up this in one of those shops, and it's basically just it's like smaller strips, like it's still the same concept of a sock blank, but it's kind of like a tube strip that you unravel. It's just a different format, but same kind of idea. And I just thought that these colors would pop so nicely with this, and so yeah, that's what I decided to do. And I love how these are looking. And like I said, these micro stripe socks just knit up so fast because they are so much fun. I think I started these a couple of days ago, and I've only been working on them here and there, but every time I sit down and work on them, I just want to keep going. So here is what I have so far. So I did my 81 stitches for the cuff, my 2x1 rib. I think I did try and do the decreased stitches just below the cuff because these are going to be for me. So I just want to see how this kind of fits. And then I started doing the micro striping. So this is so easy. Basically, you're doing a form of helical knitting. All you have to do is knit with one row or one strand of yarn at a time. So you do like one row with the solid color, one row with the sock blank, and the only thing that you have to kind of watch for or keep in mind is that when you're switching to the next color for the next row, you just kind of drop the color you just finished working with, start with the new color, and you just don't want them to cross. So you can see here's the color that I just worked, the teal. Here's the color that I'm going to start working with, and I just want to make sure that they don't cross when I start working with the new color. And as long as you do that, then you just get the really nice continuous stripes. So this is the beginning of my row here, and you can see it just looks like the stripes are going around and round and round. There's no jogs and no breaking points there. So it's so easy to do. I think it's a really good way to use a sock blank that kind of breaks up the colors a little bit, and it's just a lot of fun. I'm having so much fun with these socks. So that's as far as I've gotten with those. I don't know, I have no plan in mind for when I would like to finish them. Honestly, it would be nice if I could fit in one more pair, aside from my Desert Vista Dyework socks and these socks. If I could fit in one more pair by the end of the year, that would be lovely. But I'm just going to work on these as I feel inspired to, and we'll just see how it goes. So that is the new project that I started this week, and then the other two projects I have to share with you are ones that you saw me start before and I've just made more progress on. So the first one of these is the Linger Here test knit that I am doing for Stephanie Lotvin. I think I last showed this to you maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, and I just literally cast on, and I maybe had 3 rows of ribbing done. I have since gotten a lot farther in the pattern. I'm still working on the, I think the back piece, but I have gone through some of the more interesting construction elements so far, so I can share with you how this is kind of pieced together. It's different than any other sweater that I've done before, but it has not been complicated. Each step has been very simple. It's just, the construction is just not something that I have tried. So this is what I have so far. And you can see I am working down the back. So this little dip right here is kind of the back neck, and then these are the shoulders, and then I'm kind of working down a bit of the body. I'm still working on technically like the yoke section. I haven't gotten to the point where the sleeves would be, but I'm at an easy part now. So just to start off with, what you do is you're knitting these little kind of wedges here. If you can see from where the back neck is here, you cast these stitches on to join the 2 parts that you do. So this is one part here, and there's short rows involved. To maybe where that yellow stitch marker is, you're kind of creating this like shoulder wedge. So you're casting on stitches at the beginning of some rows, you're doing some short row shaping, and you end up getting this little wedge shape. And then what you do is you create another little wedge shape for the other shoulder. So same thing, you're just casting on, you're doing rib, you are doing some short rows and casting on stitches at the beginning of some rows and doing this little wedge. And then once that's done, you kind of join them, so you have them on separate needles, or you put them on hold, and then you are joining them together and casting on stitches in between them so that they are together on one needle, and at that point you are knitting down the back. So it's mostly rib, it's very simple, and then I've just gotten to the part now. You can see that the rib has changed to, I think, mostly either a 5x2, and then in some places it's a 5x3 rib. This is where the cable starts. So technically I have started the cable chart, I just haven't gotten to the row. The next row is actually the one where cables start forming. I just didn't have, I haven't been at a place where I could sit down and read the cables and figure that out and kind of focus on it. So I left it at this point for now, but I'm going to be starting those beautiful, beautiful cables that you can see in the finished object picture. So I'm really excited with how this is progressing. This yarn is knitting up really, really nicely. I ordered this yarn especially for this project. It's just something, I did look in my stash, but I just didn't have any yarn that really called to me for this project. I had something very specific in mind in terms of how I wanted it to look with the cables, and so I ordered this Cascade Cantata for this sweater, and I'm just really pleased with how it's knitting up so far. It feels really nice, it feels really nice and light, and then I love the heathered kind of look because it's kind of a construction where there's there's like a netting, and then there's kind of fibers blown into that netting, which gives it this really pretty even heathered look. So this is what I'm doing so far. I think I have to start the cables, and I have to do that for a certain length, and then what I have to do is do the same thing for the front. So I'm going to do the left shoulder wedge and the right shoulder wedge, join the wedges, and then knit down to the same point that I'm at the back, and that's when you start joining it in the round and working on the sweater in one piece. So again, like I said, not a typical construction like I'm used to, but nothing complicated and nothing scary. It would be, I think most people who have, you know, your standard knitting experience should have no problem with this pattern so far. So I am enjoying that. I am really going to try and have a day this week that I can dedicate to it again. I think this is the project that I worked on Wednesday when I was home, and I really didn't have to worry about anything. And so I'm going to try to have at least another day or two this week where I can just sit and focus on this project, because it is knit with like a worsted weight yarn. When I do work on it, it does work up fairly quickly, and I really want to make some progress on this project. So that is the other project that you've seen, and then I just have one more, and this is going to be a quick one because it's not a terribly exciting project. It doesn't look that much different than you saw it the last time, except it is now bigger. So I am talking about the blanket that I'm knitting for Avery for Christmas with the bulky chenille yarn. The last time I showed it to you, I had explained how I had bought 3 balls. My intention was to make a sweater, but when I started using it for a sweater, it was just too busy. I didn't like it, and so I decided to make a blanket instead. And I knew the 3 balls that I had were probably not going to be enough, and I'd have to get another one. That's one of the errands that I was able to do this week. I went up and I picked up another ball of this yarn. So when I showed it to you last, I had got through 1 ball of the yarn, which kind of brought me to about here. I can tell the difference because the first ball, these purple splotches are much smaller, and when the second ball started, you can kind of see the purple just seems to be like they're bigger concentrations. The colors themselves are pretty much similar between the balls. It's just different amounts of the different colors that were dyed. So this is where I showed it to you last time. I had finished up to about here, and then I've been able to add 2 more balls. So the next ball I think went up to about here, so that's the second ball between these fingers here, and then I was able to add the 3rd ball in. I finished adding the 3rd ball in last night. So this is what we have in terms of width so far, and I think my calculations were correct that once I add that 4th ball, it will be a good size. She has been using it on the couch so far, and it's almost a good size for her, but it just, yeah, 1 more ball and I think it will be perfect. This is the length that I've got for her, so it's just a nice little length for just to hang out on the couch. It's not going to be a huge blanket, but I think it will be perfect for when she's cuddling on the couch and we're just watching our movies or we're watching our shows. And I've mentioned before that to put 1 ball into this, I can do in a day, or I can do in kind of if we have like a weekend evening that's a little bit longer than like a school night evening, I can get 1 ball in. So I'm absolutely not worried about finishing this for Christmas. She knows she's getting it, but even once I finish it, I think I'm going to pack it away, and she's going to have to wait till Christmas to open it. So I've been making really good progress on that. And then going into an upcoming project. So I had talked about how originally the yarn that I bought for this blanket was supposed to be a sweater, and then I didn't like it for a sweater. So I ended up going on Yarn Canada and ordering some kind of chenille yarn for a sweater, but then they didn't have the colors I wanted, and I had to pick out new colors, and then they had to send that to me, and they expedited it. Well, it arrived this week too, so I thought I would briefly show you that, just so you can see. Now, I don't know, part of me is very tempted to cast this on soon too. I've told you before, I'm like, I just want to start all the projects right now. But realistically, I know I should probably wait until I finish at least one other thing. So as a reminder, this is the pattern that I would really, really like to make for her. She's really into these big, bulky, oversized sweatshirt type sweaters right now, and I thought this would be a nice Christmas sweater for her. So originally I had ordered a bright pink for this main color here, and then the black for the sleeves. She has lots of leggings that are black based with pops of color, and I just thought this would go with lots of her clothes. So when they told me that the pink was one of the ones that was out of stock and I had to pick something else, my second choice was a purple. That was out of stock, so eventually I had to go with another pink. It's not my favorite pink, but I think without seeing the original pink, this pink will be fine. It's just more of kind of a dusty pink, but I think it will still be fine. They had the black. So this is the pink that I'm going to be using for the body of the sweater, and then this will be the sleeves. This is Premier Yarns Parfait, and it's just a chunky weight chenille yarn that I think is going to be super, super cozy and cuddly for this sweatshirt type sweater. The other color that I wanted was a cream. So in the same yarn, I wanted a cream, and I have a pattern in mind that I want to make for the baby, and I thought a cream would be perfect. The cream was out of stock, so my next choice was a gray. That was out of stock, and I didn't really want to go with any of the pastel like mints or the baby colors. So what I ended up getting was this really pretty teal. So I bought this color as well to make a little toy for the baby. I figured for a toy, the color wasn't too important. It's just, yeah, my first, either a cream or a gray would have been nice, but actually I really, really think this is a pretty color. Online it looks more like a bright kind of royal or cobalt blue, but in person it's this really, really pretty teal color. So this is going to be an upcoming project as well. That one will probably be a really, really quick, but I'm going to wait until next year to do that. So that is some new yarn that I got with some upcoming projects, and I think that pretty much covers everything that I've been working on this week or planning to work on soon. So next, I think I'm going to share with you the knit that I did when we were expecting Avery. So like I said, I tried to stick to just the knits that I worked on before she was born, because when she was born and we knew she was a girl, my whole knitting game plan kind of changed. So the first two projects I'm going to share with you are the ones I give, like with this baby here, and how I've talked about how I like to work on kind of good vibes, good juju projects when we were trying. I did the same thing with Avery. We'd been trying for just over a year at this point, and so I decided to cast on some projects just to put some good vibes, good juju out into the world. And the first one I started was this little color work elephant sweater. So this pattern is called Elephant, and again, we didn't find out what Avery's gender was going to be, so I had to kind of pick gender neutral colors that weren't too like babyish. I'm not really into kind of like the pastel greens and yellows, so I kind of went with jewel tones and teals and stuff like that. I actually really like how this sweater turned out. I believe I made this in the Debbie Bliss Cashmerino, and yeah, I'm really pleased with it. So I started knitting this in March of 2011, I think, and it was either March or February. It was either February or March that we found out that we were expecting her. So I had started this just before we found out that I was pregnant with Avery. So yeah, this is the Elephant sweater, and I knit this in a larger size. I do have thoughts about that I might get into later, but this was the first thing that I cast on. And then the second thing I cast on, but I didn't actually finish until much later. I think I cast this little guy on also in March 2011, but I didn't finish it until like June. This is called Pears the Elephant, and I just used leftovers from the sweater to make this little elephant to kind of go with it and to be a little set. So it was, I remember while working on this elephant, we found out that I was pregnant with Avery. So this kind of has some special memories to it. You can see he's got some gunk on him there, but Avery actually still plays with him in her toy room. So this and that sweater were a nice little set. I do actually have a picture of Avery wearing the sweater, so I will pop that in. I will pop in pictures. If I have pictures of her wearing any of these items, I will pop them in. But that one, I know I have a picture of her wearing. She was probably at least 2 or so before that one fit her. But yeah, she did get, I do remember her wearing that a few times. Not a ton, but a few times. The next things that I worked on, I actually had to go into my Ravelry project page and just go down to that time period where I knew I was knitting baby knits with our baby specifically in mind, because even before this, I would just knit baby knits for fun and kind of put them away because the small projects were just really, I really enjoyed knitting them. So I had to go and look for ones that I knew I specifically was working on for our upcoming baby. So the next set of sweaters, there's actually supposed to be 4 of them, but I could only find 3 of them. During this time, I came across this pattern called the Garter Yoke Baby Cardi, and I knit 4 of these at least during this time, and I might have knit more after this, but I worked on these from February till April of 2011, and so I used all the same pattern. And I remember just thinking this was a really good knit to use up small amounts of hand spun. And again, like I was trying to keep the colors fairly neutral for what I think is fairly. I mean, we all have different color preferences, and for me, gender neutral is more like reds and grays and, you know, kind of rainbows and jewel tones. But this is the first one I think I made with this pattern, and it was just a really simple garter yoke construction, and then you pick up and do the little sleeves, you do the little body, you do the little button bands. But it was just a really fun way to mix and match yarns, find some fun buttons. So this one is really, really cute. I don't think she wore, so these next 3 sweaters that I'm going to show you using this pattern, I don't think she wore these at all. And I'll talk about that after I get through everything. I'll talk about why I think that is, and then also why that's going to kind of shape how I'm planning on knitting for this baby. So this is the first Garter Yoke Cardi, and then I also had this one here. Again, I used the garter yoke to use some hand spun, and then I mixed it with another yarn that I had in stash. I think for the most part you could get away with maybe 1 ball, maybe 2 50-gram balls to do the body, and then I found some really nice ceramic buttons that kind of complemented the colors. So this was the next one that I did. And then the third one I did, I think this was using a red heart yarn, and it was slightly thicker, so it made a slightly bigger size. But this one I just used this yarn for the entire sweater, and I did put a zipper inside of this one. This one's actually quite soft, but again, I don't think she wore any of these. I mean, the colors are really pretty, but yeah, I don't think I had her wear any of these sweaters. There was actually one more that used hand spun that I did, and it was kind of in a purple, and it was quite pretty, but I don't think she wore that one either. So the next pattern that I did was called Supernatural Stripes, and I did this in, I think, August of 2011, and I used some cotton yarns. I believe I bought this on at a fiber show that I attended, and so I was just really happy to find some yarn for a future baby knit. And so this one is quite bright and fun. This pattern I liked. I don't think I've knit this one since. It kind of has an asymmetrical button band. You do some striping. So I had these 3 colors. I do like the colors together. I found these buttons on Etsy. These are handmade polymer clay buttons with the little hedgehog and then the matching coordinating buttons. And overall, like, I think this is really, really cute, and I do have a picture of her wearing it, but I don't think this was one that she wore often. I think maybe once or twice, just so that I could say that she wore it, but that was it. It didn't really fit into her wardrobe, and yeah, so I do have a picture of it. I will put it in, but she did not wear it very often. And again, I knit a bigger size, and so I think she had to wait until she was between 1 and 2 before she could wear that one. The final little set that I have to share with you is this little vest called Pebble, and then a hat. I think I showed you the hat that I did. I've showed you the hat before. Now I forget when I knit that, but the Presto Preemie hat with the little ridges, I think when I showed you the baby set that I knit a number of years ago and put aside, there was a Presto Preemie hat in there, and I also knit one when we were expecting Avery. So this is the little vest, and you can see there's some gunk on this one too, and I don't even know if she wore this. Maybe she did. I don't know how stuff would get on it otherwise, but I made this little tiny vest. It has the buttons down the side and I believe buttons at the top there, so it's supposed to be really easy to get on and off. I do remember this being a really quick and kind of fun knit with the purples and the kind of royal blue there. I mean, it's a really cute pattern. And then I used some of this accent here to do the Presto Preemie hat. And I can tell you that she did wear this. I remember using this on her quite often because as a newborn it fit her really, really, really well. She was born in December, so going out and about, just having a little hat on, and it was so cute on her. I do have a picture of her wearing this. But yeah, this hat, it looks so weird when it's not being worn, but I have to say it's absolutely adorable when it's being worn from a baby. So if you have a baby that you want to knit for and you just want a really quick, cute little project, these Presto Preemie hats are very, very fun. So this one she did use quite a bit. The vest, I honestly don't remember putting on her at all. And then there were a pair of booties that I knit with the leftover yarns as well that I saw on my Ravelry page, but I couldn't find. There are a number of projects that I know I've knit for her that I ended up giving to other people who ended up having babies after us. I know there was a teddy bear hat that I gave to one of Dennis's friends. There was an elf hat, like a Christmas elf hat that I gave away. So there were some other things that I knit that I just know that I have given away. So those are the things that I found that I knit for her while we were expecting her. And like I said, we did not know what she was going to be, and the same with this pregnancy. We are not finding the gender out, and I will totally admit to you that is more of a Dennis thing than for me. I went along with it for Avery because it was our first baby, and you know, he was all like, you know, there's only one time in your life that you get kind of this surprise in life and blah blah blah. And I was like, okay, fine, you know, I'll humor you. But for this one, I kind of wouldn't mind knowing, but he doesn't want to know, so we're not going to know. So I'm kind of facing the same dilemma that I did with knitting for Avery. As you can see, I knit a ton of things when we were expecting her, and I can honestly say we did not use a ton of them. And I think part of that was once she was born and once I knew she was a girl, I just wanted to knit all the girl things. Honestly, I think if she had been a boy, I may have used some of these projects more, because no matter how hard you might try to make something be gender neutral, I think it's always going to lean just a little bit masculine, because otherwise it's going to look more girly. And again, it's your own personal preferences. I know a lot of people don't see certain colors as gender specific and other people do, but just for what I see as certain gender colors, anything that I would knit to try and be gender neutral always seemed to lean just a little bit more boyish. So when she was born and she was a girl, I just wanted to knit all the cute little girl things, and we just did not use a lot of these knits. So going in with this baby, I really am not planning on knitting a whole lot. I do have some things that I want to knit. One of the things that I found was when she was born, as you could see, none of the things that I knit for her fit her. Because everybody's like, don't knit newborn sizes, don't knit newborn sizes, they're only going to wear them for like a week and then they're going to outgrow them. But when she was born, she had nothing that fit her, because everything was made to be, you know, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. And so actually, she ended up being in the hospital a week or two after she was born. She was having some issues with gaining weight. And while we were there, I brought in a skein of yarn and I knit her a newborn size little cardigan and hat, because none of the sweaters fit her. So that is one of the things I want to keep in mind for this one. I do want to make a newborn vertebrae sweater, so that I have at least one piece that is designed to fit them when they are itty bitty even if it only fits for a couple of weeks. So that's one of the things on my list. I want to make another little kind of hat bonnet type thing. I want to make some knee-high booties. I made this pattern. It's in my queue, I think, for a baby swap a number of years ago. It was a really fun knit. I think layering it over like a onesie would work really well, so I want to make those. And then there might be one or two other things that I'm going to knit that are a smaller size, but really my plan is just to kind of wait and see, because I know once the baby gets here, once you see the baby and you see what the baby's like, and you know they have a name, I think you're just going to change, or I feel like I'm going to change what I want to make depending on how I feel, or what I feel would suit the baby and the baby's wardrobe, etc. So I do have a few things I want to make. I'm putting them all on my next year's bingo card, because I don't have a ton of time for the rest of this year, and I'm kind of working on my current bingo card, and B, if I'm going to knit them anyway, I might as well have them count for something, so I'm going to wait until next week or next year's bingo card. And just a note, I will be having a thread go up by the end, around the beginning of December, in the Bling String group for planning and joining the 2020 bingo. So yeah, that's what I have to share with you in terms of the knits. And then I just thought I would give you a teeny tiny baby update. So I am currently around 19 and a half weeks. I'm almost at that halfway point. I did just have my anatomy scan, and as far as I know, it went quite well. I mean, they obviously are not going to give you all the details, but the tech that I had did say that everything looked good. I got a whole bunch of pictures. I have been very fortunate this time. I don't know if just things have changed with how they do ultrasounds, but I was lucky to get maybe 1 or 2 pictures when I was pregnant with Avery. They've been very generous with the pictures this round. So I got lots of pictures, and it's interesting seeing it change from each time that you go. So the last time I would have gotten an ultrasound would have been around 13 weeks, and it was starting to look like a little person, but still kind of, you know, in a weird little shape. And now it looks like a total little person. You can see the little fingers, you can see the little toes, you can see the ears in the right spot, and the profile of the head, and the little legs and everything. It's fascinating how fast how they grow, and like I think at this point they almost double, you know, every couple of weeks and stuff. So that was really fun. I can say that I can feel the baby move now. It's still nothing that you can feel from the outside. I know once that happens, Avery's hands are going to be on me 24/7, but I can feel it, so that is very reassuring and comforting. I can say now that I'm in the second trimester, I feel like I've leveled out in terms of how I feel. So the first trimester, there was a lot of days where I felt kind of icky, very, very, very tired. Most days now, I feel really, really good. There's some days where I even forget that anything's going on. The odd day, I will feel a little off, a little tired, and then also just, I guess there's kind of like growing pains some days where I just feel really sore as things stretch and move and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, I'm feeling pretty comfortable. I do get tired if I do too much in a day. And then the only other thing is, oh my gosh, I feel like I have to eat like a hobbit. I've kind of lost interest in food. It's not something that I want to do all the time, but I just feel after an hour or two, I'll get this feeling of kind of blahness, and I know I need to eat or it's going to get worse. And I find this happens like every hour or two. So I'm like having my breakfast, and then I'm having my second breakfast, and then I'm having my early lunch, and then I'm having my lunch, and then I'm having like my after lunch snack, and then like I just feel like I am eating all the time. But other than that, I think that's where we are right now. Like I said, things are, I know for the most part, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm excited as things progress. I'm really trying to just enjoy each stage, because honestly, we weren't even sure this was going to happen, so I don't see it happening again. And yeah, so I'm just trying to enjoy every little bit. So I hope you enjoyed this little update. I hope you enjoyed seeing all of Avery's past knits, and I hope you've had a great weekend, because it's basically pretty much over. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get this up tonight. I will do my best, but I hope you had a lovely week and weekend, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.